What's going up, everybody? How you doing? Lord PeteyTV here to give you our information about season 3, The War Within, Week 4, Affixes for Mythic plus Dungeons. So, as always, let's roll through, let's talk about them, and let me explain what they end up doing. And then after that, we're going to go through all the other class tuning stuff that happened throughout this whole entire week and changes just in case you missed them. So the first thing we're going to talk about for Mythic Plus is that it's going to be the level 2 affix is going to be Zealotap's Devour. This is the last one. We haven't seen it yet, so hopefully we'll get to see that and we'll learn more about it right there. Zealotap's Bargain Devour. Apparently, players are going to be affected by a heal absorb while in combat. When you get this heal absorb on you, either they're going to have to be healed through or dispelled, and then that is going to come off. I don't know if it is going to be anything dispel or if it's going to be specific to a magical dispel. So it's going to be very interesting to see, because if it is a magical dispel, it'll be really nice to see how we're going to end up acquiring that with everything that's going to happen with what's it called, Mass Spell, because Mass Spell will just be able to remove it all, which will be really, really easy. Or is it something where anyone can do anything, meaning decurses or any curses or poisons or disease, same type of dispels will work also. So that'll be kind of interesting there. The next thing after that is going to be Fortified, which means that the ads are going to have more health and they're going to deal more damage. And then that is the level 4 affix. Level 7 is going to be Challenger's Peril. Deaths are going to be 15 seconds instead of 5. And then that means the 10 affix is going to be Tyrannical. Bosses are going to deal more damage and they're going to have more health. And then obviously 12, as always, is, Dial, which removes the bargain ability of Devour. So it's going to be a really interesting week, as always, early on. I think that this is going to be an easy week from, from your 2 keys up until probably your 4-ish range. And then that's going to be very easy to deal with. But anything over that's going to start turning into your problem children, if you will. Your 4 keys, you're going to get your Fortified, and you're going to feel the difference of the ads smacking your tanks and your healers having to deal with the Devour portion. So be very, very aware of that and be very, very interested to see how that goes, as I would also love to see how this ends up going. So the other things that kind of have gone through the system, and I'm going to start with the latest things. So the first thing I'm just going to talk about real quick. Everybody knows about the stuff that happened on the hotfixes for October 1st, meaning Preservation Invokers Consuming Flames will no longer gain the double benefit from versatility, and they fixed an issue where Consuming Flame is gaining more benefit than initially intended from their Attuned to the Dream. So that's going to be really, really interesting situation, because that is one of the main big things that is being dealt with for Preservation Evokers when it comes to them healing. So that's something that's very interesting. And then Warlocks had a handful of issues that were fixed. They're nothing too crazy. Some things about, like, when you're casting certain abilities, like, for instance, fixed an issue where Houndsmaster's Gambit was not appearing on Dreadstalkers and things like that. So it was the icons, but not the the damages and so on and so forth. So there's little things here and there. On top of that, you have little things that were fixed in Delves, which I kind of just wanted to quickly talk about, and that is the rare things like Tinderbox, Charm Caps, Deep's Ingots, Gloom Fathom Hides, and Vial of the, I think it's Kathi oils. They're going to be more diverse across everything. And now the other things that were changed that day were the things that we discussed last week, like the changes that happened in Grim Batal, Mist, Siege of Borealis, Dawnbreaker, Stone Vault, and then the changes that happened in the palace. So you had all of those things changing, not too bad. So just kind of something to think of. If you're questioning things, you can go back to that. Wowhead has that information. You can see all those changes, but they're mostly nerfs to the dungeons, which is a beautiful thing. The other thing was that they changed how Zelotav's bargain Voidbound was going to be. So originally, they were going to take the shield and increase it to make it harder for you to break, and it was reverted. And that also came with an increase in the Blessing from Beyond, which means the cooldown reduction was increased to 50% when it was 20, and the healing taken was increased to 15%, was 10. That stayed, but the HP increase on the Void Shield was not implemented. So that's another little tidbit of information. And then they had other changes that were happening throughout the whole entire week. The big deal was the Zelotav's bargain would no longer increase the health. It's not too much big of a change. Some delve changes, nothing really that anyone would be more worried about. So that's not easy one there. The second one, so evokers, augmentation evokers, it fixed Scale Commander's issue where mass eruption would amplify the number of targets struck by the Overlord talent, and fix an issue where Overlord could apply bombardments to enemy targets using mass eruption when it was active. And then you have a couple of raid and dungeon stuff, which I do want to talk about here. Zelotav's bargain now affects the cooldowns of additional spells. They changed that, so I guess Void didn't really hit enough. Grim Batal addressed an issue where Shadowburner's encounter can reset unexpectedly. The Dawnbreaker addressed an issue where Void emissaries could cause Speaker Shadow Crown to reset. Teacher Borealis addressed an issue where Dread Captain Lockwood can have a second wave of ads during intermission. Very interesting. We actually, and you'll see, I'll have it in the video, we had an issue with our Siege of Borealis. I think it was a 7 or an 8. We were on the verge of timing it, and we actually had a guy disappear. So it was very, very frustrating. The wave boss. So it killed our whole entire key. It was not a happy thing for any of us. All right, and then this is the class tuning, which I'm going to talk about for the 8th. There is a lot of changes to a lot of different classes throughout its entirety, but I want to make sure we talk about it. Now, it's kind of hard for me to go through every single one of these, so I'm not. I guess what I'm going to say in general is that Blood DKs had a little bit of a buff to multiple different things, mostly their talents for Selayan, and then you're going to have a little bit of a buff for Demon Hunters, Havoc and Vengeance. Multiple different abilities are going to have increased damage there. This is going to help them actually perform like they should and compare it to others. Feral Druids, they had a damage increase. Restoration Druids, they had a healing increase. Augmentation Evokers had a nerf. Blistering Scales that normally grant 20% of your armor. That's what it is now. It was 30%. So that's something I wanted to make sure you knew. Devastation Evokers consuming flame damage is increased 25%. And Flame Shapers engulf damage reduced by 20%. But that's only in PvP. Preservation Evoker and Flame Shapers engulf healing increased by 20%. Flame Shapers consuming flame healing reduced by 50%. So this is a little bit of more of a nerf to them. But once again, just wanted to make sure everyone is aware of it. Hunters are getting a buff. This is being from the pets and also the kill command abilities. Survival is also getting a buff, so that's going to be interesting. Mage hero talents, Frostfire is getting a buff. Monks, they're also getting a little bit of a hero talent buff. Brewmasters, they're trying to bring them up a little bit more so that they can absorb a little more. So Master of Harmony is taking a lot more buffs there. Mistweaver, they're doing something very similar. They're actually trying to make them a little stronger there. And Windwalker, they are kind of nerfing them a little bit. So be aware of that. What's going on, everybody? How you doing? I'm just going to add a little bit of information here about some new stuff that came out. This came out actually really late on Monday, so I wanted to make sure it was added in for you all. BM Hunters, their pet damage increase is not being increased anymore, but everything else is staying the same there. They figured out that they needed more AoE, but the actual pet damage itself, they gave it too high. It was just too much. The next thing was Holy Pallies. We're supposed to be getting their healing reduced. No longer the case. So that is pretty good for them. And then the last thing, they ended up putting a little bit of like changes in here too. They're saying that rogues, they're going to have a little bit more damage coming from their black powder. So a little bit of changes here and there. Just wanted to add that in there, and back on with the rest of the information. Thanks. Bye, everybody. As always, if you all are enjoying this content and stuff we're talking about, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate and love you all for doing that. I try to post as much as I can, and I'm going to start giving more information like this every single week when it comes to Mythic Pluses, and also so anything else you all need to know. So thank you all. We have the time. We just need the subscribers on the channel to be monetized. So please help us out there. All right. So next thing, Holy Pallies are getting a all healing reduced by 5%. So they're getting a little bit of a nerf, it feels like, but they're also getting a couple of lightsmith abilities that are going to be buffed. Pallies, all damage increased by 6%. Word of Glory healing is increased by 20%. And multiple other abilities that are going to be positive for damage and healing and defensive reasons. So they're trying to buff them up and bring them back to what they were. Retribution, it feels like they're giving them a buff and a nerf at the same time. So be aware of that. So it's kind of interesting. Shadow Priests are getting really buffed. And so you're going to be seeing a lot more of them probably in your dungeons. Rogues, they're buffing them a little bit and nerfing them at the same time. So Deathstalker is getting a little bit of a nerf because now Follow the Blood affects only 2 targets instead of 3. Assassination is getting a little bit of a nerf on the top end because of their tier set bonuses. Outlaw is getting a DPS buff by a lot. And you're probably asking yourself, why a lot? Because I know for a fact that they're getting 4% for all abilities and then 6% increase on Dispatch. And Dispatch goes off so often, that's going to be huge for them. You're going to see them really be putting out DPS now if you're playing it right. Shaman, Resto Shaman is getting a little bit of a nerf. That is from the Acid Rain damage and also Earthen Harmony. Warlocks themselves, they're getting a little, it's not even a buff, it's kind of like it's just a meh, like a little pat on the back. They're going to have a little bit of an increase in DPS, but not by much. Warriors, hero talents for all of them are all being changed. Slayer's getting some reduced. It looks like Mountain Thorn or Thorm is getting buffed. And then Colossus looks to be getting a little bit of a buff also. Fury is also doing well. So that's going to be a little bit more. And yeah, I think that is going to be it there. So, and then protection is going to have Mountain Thane is going to be increasing a little less rage. So that's not going to be much of a buffer, nerf at all there. So that's not too bad there. So that's pretty easy. Now the next thing I want to talk about is 2 tips about dungeons which people do not remember. In Mists of Tyr and the Scythe, when the guessing game happens on Mistcaller, you can angle yourself so that the balls hit the ads and they will do damage. You'll rip right through super quick. So I highly recommend you do that. So keep an eye on it. The other thing is the tank buster during the EDNA fight on Stonevault I want to talk about. So I've seen this happen multiple times where people are dying on that boss. I'm going to talk about this now, and then I'm also going to talk about it. I'm going to try to make a video of Stonevault bosses this week. So the tank buster, Seismic Smash, inflicts heavy damage on the tank and leaves them with a debuff called Seismic Reverberation. Seismic Reverberation leaves the tank with a dot that every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. Once dispelled, it grants a shield, Stone Shield, which is a 50% damage reduction buff that lasts 6 seconds. Healers want to dispel Seismic Reverberation before the next Seismic Smash shows off. And they want to do it when there's about 4 seconds left on the clock. The reason why you're ending up doing that is because you want that tank to have that Stone Shield for when the boss is doing heavy damage. So it is just something that you kind of want to take care of. And I've seen it happen multiple times where the ad, or I shouldn't say the ad, but the tank dies because the dispel is done at the wrong time. So just be aware of that. So as always, I greatly appreciate and love everybody for checking out these videos. I'm Lord PeteyTV. I am on Twitch.tv every single Monday through Friday. You can support the channel in numerous ways. You can subscribe on Twitch. You can buy some merch. You can buy a subscription to coffee. We have all that stuff in the links below. I greatly appreciate and love you all for checking out this video. Good luck on your vault this week. Dream big, keep gaming, and I will see you all soon. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Boom! 85 points.